So, what are skateboard deck rails, and why do some skaters use them? Are they beneficial or just a trend? To answer these questions, we need to go back to a golden era of skateboarding, the 1980s. So during the 80s, an era in which skateboarding started to take flight into the mainstream, nearly everybody used rails on their skateboard. There were a lot of pro skaters at the time, like Tony Alva, preferred not to use rails as it was considered more hardcore or punk to skate without rails. At this point in time, we need to remember that most skateboarders were skating bowls or verts. So at the time, why did most skateboarders use rails? There's a few reasons, some of which are still relevant today. Number 1, they protected the graphic on your board. Number 2, it allowed you to slide better on rough concrete like bowl copings or obstacles like curbs in the street. Number 3, it makes grabbing the board easier. Number 4, more board support and less chance of a snapped deck. During the 80s, when nearly everybody was either skating bowls or vert, it feels like not using rails would be stupid. So then came the 90s. Street skateboarding became the norm, and so did the popsicle-shaped deck, the shape we all know today. This could be a reason that less skaters were using rails on their decks, but I think it comes down to that skaters at the time probably thought that they were uncool, like stabilizers on a bike, or thought that they were just practically useless. So why have rails now made a resurgence? I spent the last few weeks skating rails to see what the big deal was. From the experience I had, there's a few positives and a few negatives. It just comes down to what type of skateboarding you're actively doing. Number 1, they were great for sliding on unwaxed rails or things in the streets like curbs. Number 2, it definitely made it easier to hold certain grabs. Number 3, it protected the graphic on my board, which was a big reason I wanted them in the first place. The downsides were quite irritating in all honesty. Certain transition and mini ramp tricks became far more dangerous. For example, I skate a spine at my local park almost every time I go. Doing a rock over the spine has never been a problem, but when I tried doing it with rails on, my board slipped out quite a few times. I also noticed that doing rock fakies and switch rocks on a quarter pipe, the board would unintentionally slide. Number 2, the screws very easily came loose. After about 6 days of skating the rails, the screws started to come out. Bearing in mind I was doing a lot of board slides on rails and on ledges, but still, something that's kind of annoying if you skate in park or street. So in this day and age, do I think that you should skate rails? In all honesty, I think it comes down to what you're going to be skating. I'm most likely going to buy another pair for my vert setup, but I'm not going to bother with them for street or park. It just doesn't seem worth it if they're going to start coming loose after a few days and change the way that I skate, i.e. skating mini ramp and being worried about sliding out. If you're not someone who does a lot of board slides and you're more concerned about protecting your graphic or helping to prevent your deck from snapping, then it's probably a good idea. All I can say is give them a try yourself, and you may like them, you may hate them, it's all just personal preference. Hopefully this has cleared up a few things for you. See you in the next one.